Hello 802 Garage viewers! First of all, I want to say thank you so much for your amazing response to my Scotty Kilmer parody video. I've been getting tons of comments telling me how funny and spot on my impression was, and I really appreciate it. Scotty Kilmer himself actually saw the video and left a comment on it, and his reaction is, well, it's very interesting, so I highly encourage you to go check that out. I will put a card up in the corner so you can go watch. And if you've seen a few of Scotty Kilmer's videos, I think you will find it especially funny. Now, onto the main topic of this video, I want to tell you all that yes, I will be working on my 1997 Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX. This will be very exciting for any of my longtime subscribers who have been wanting to see more of this car, and for anybody new here, I really hope you'll consider subscribing to watch me try to fix this rusty, clapped out DSM. Now, the problem with this car was that it would not start. That's why the previous owner stopped driving it. The starter just wouldn't engage the flywheel. Now, to try to fix this, they did replace the clutch, and they used a fairly decent unit. I think it's probably a Sachs kit, and they also replaced the flywheel. This is just some unknown eBay brand flywheel, but I did verify that it is the right size and number of teeth. I thought maybe they had used a GST unit because they're different sizes, but that actually would have caused an entirely different problem. So, in pulling out the transmission to try to figure out exactly what went wrong, I discovered that they had used a modified starter plate from an automatic car, since this engine is also swapped from an Eagle Talon, which must have been an automatic. And to solve this, I have bought a brand new OEM starter plate, brand new OEM starter bolts, and I've also bought an Exedy Racing clutch kit for only $115, which is an amazing deal, and an Exedy Racing flywheel for $240, which is a fantastic deal. Total, these parts would normally be well over $800. So I'm really excited to put some high quality parts into this car, even if the rest of the car is only worth about as much as those parts. I'm really hoping that with the OEM parts to align the starter properly, and the brand new flywheel from a known brand, it's going to actually let the car start. But what I have to do, and I'm going to show you right now, is make sure that with the flywheel on the input shaft of the transmission and the starter installed with the correct starter plate, that it actually all aligns properly and will allow the car to start. So I hope you'll enjoy this first step on my journey to try to get this thing to start and run under its own power again. Alright, so I have everything set up that I need to test that the starter will engage with my brand new Exedy Racing flywheel. By the way, I do want to mention that I filmed a funny little segment for the end of this video, so I do hope that you'll watch all the way to the end. I also have a brand new OEM starter plate, which is going to hopefully fix the alignment of the starter, and the brand new Exedy Racing clutch. I also have the old unit here just to test that, and the starter, which I have verified is correct for this car. So I'm basically going to take all this out of the box, bolt it together with some brand new pressure plate bolts, and I've also got some brand new starter bolts, and that'll be a good way to verify that everything's going to work. By the way, I do have full unboxing videos of both the clutch and flywheel and some other parts for the Mitsubishi. If you haven't seen those, I'll put a little link up in the corner so you can go watch that. They're pretty popular videos, so maybe you'll enjoy them too. Now, of course, this isn't going to be the final install, and I'll probably take this all back apart before it even goes back in the car, so I'm just going to use a windy gun to put this together, and I'm not going to use any proper torque specs, just try to make sure it's even. Oh, these are 12. Yep. Maybe they revised the bolt at some point. This thing is definitely a beast compared to the replacement clutch kit that was on it before. I still don't have it tightened down all the way. It took a lot more than that one did. Before anyone comments, if it's not already too late, yes, I definitely do need to take this back apart because I didn't put in the dowel pins, which was intentional. Alright, so the plan now is basically to fit this brand new Exedy Racing setup onto the transmission, which has some tree fuzz on it from the wind. God, these things are heavy. And there she is. Make sure that it's just kind of seated in there where it would be. So we're in the car. Okay, spins free. I think it is hitting the clutch fork a little bit, but that's not a big deal. Cool. And then I'm going to put on the starter plate. And I want to actually show you why I think this car wasn't starting. And these holes have actually been kind of like ground out, so they're more oval. And I think they did that in an attempt to get everything to fit together because they were using that automatic starter plate, or maybe they even modified the automatic starter plate while it was on this. But it looks hideous. I'll show you. So you can actually see that these starter bolt holes have been kind of ground out for some reason, which could allow for some wobble. And if you look at these holes, they're actually much larger than the holes on the starter plate, meaning they're larger than the bolts as well. So that means this whole transmission could have a little bit of movement even when mounted to the engine. And so any bit of offset for that starter, because the teeth are not really that wide, could mean that it doesn't fully engage the flywheel. And you'll see when I test that one later that there's actually some damage on those teeth. But let's just make sure that the starter with the brand new starter plate is going to engage that Exedy flywheel. So what I'm going to do is mount this up just like so, and I have a bolt that will go through, and I'm going to try to make sure that all the holes are as centered as possible. And I'll just start with this hole up at the top. And I do have a little handy wooden dowel over here that I'm going to use just to help keep another hole kind of centered. Let's go. Get away with it maybe. Just try to get everything nice and lined up. So I'm going to basically go for on center with these holes. And I will grab the starter bolts real quick. See if I can center up this plate with those as well. And so you should be able to tell how much wobble these bolts really have in this hole. There's a lot of angle there. So if this starter gets even a little bit loose at all and can go off angle, then with all the torque that it's producing to hit these teeth, of course it's going to kind of fly off center, if you will. So maybe if I just pushed the starter down and retighten these bolts, the car would have started, but I want to have everything done properly. So I'm going to tighten it there. And then I'm going to put on the starter. And I'm probably going to torque that down properly just to simulate how it's going to be on the car. Alright, so I found that this is either supposed to be 20 or 22 foot-pounds. It seems like every other transmission except for the manual transmission 4G63 is 22, and this one's 20. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to go with 20 for right now. That should be plenty. Alrighty. So I just wanted to make a quick note that for the next segment I use this nifty little bore scope camera to see how the starter is engaging with the flywheel. I will put a link down in the description for this one, which is USB-C, as well as some with other connectors. It's been super handy. I used it to look inside of the MR2 engine and see that the cylinder walls were pretty mirrored, and I've used it to look inside the gas tank as well. It's a pretty thin tip, so you can fit it into a lot of places, and it is super useful as a mechanic, DIY or otherwise. So I hope you'll check it out. Oh, and they're like super affordable too, surprisingly, even with a really long cord like this. Alright, I think this is about the best angle I'm going to get. I'm going to try to sort of align the flywheel to make this as easy as possible. And I have not even tried this off camera yet, so here goes nothing. Alright, and I will play that again in slow motion for everybody so that they can see it. Let's try a little bit of a different angle. Alright, and I did find another real quick way just to test. So this is with the flywheel free and the starter not engaged, but I can actually pull the flywheel out, and you can see it meshes with those teeth pretty well. And if I try to turn it, I can actually watch it spin the teeth on the starter. So that looks like pretty good engagement to me. So I'm pretty happy with that, and pretty happy with my nifty little borescope camera as well. Alright, so I went ahead and whipped off the Exedy Racing setup, and I put back in the one that came with the car. And this is an eBay chromoly flywheel. And I do want to show you real quick some of the damage I was talking about on the teeth. So if you look right there, you can actually see how this one's sort of folded and this one's really flattened out. And all the tips on these teeth were kind of rusted and looked like they had been sort of hit by the gear on the starter, if you will. So you can see right there too a little bit of damage. It looks like it was just barely nicking the tip of it. So just another sign that the starter was not aligned properly, and I'm going to do the same test now just to see how it looks with the starter properly aligned. Alright, I've got basically the same view here, and I'm just going to try to pull this eBay flywheel out and see if it engages. A little bit hard to yank. Okay, definitely engages. It's a little bit harder to see exactly how much, just due to the design. But it does spin that, and if I kind of push it back in, okay, and engage power. I had a harder time telling how that one went. Whew, causing some smoke on my wires out here. One more try for old time's sake. Alright, so that definitely engaged. Alright, so I did play that back for myself, and it definitely looks like the starter was engaging just fine with the eBay flywheel. So I am guessing that the primary issue was having the modified starter plate, which I'll try to show you if I can find it, and having those bolts incorrect and, having the holes rounded out. All that combined is bad, but since I got such a great deal on the Exedy Racing clutch and flywheel set, definitely going to be using those. They are an upgrade, they're unnecessary for a stock car, but going to be using them anyways, and I trust them way more than eBay parts, and this should definitely make the car work, so I'm pretty excited about that. So here we are at my 4G63, and I'll show you what these idiots did to try to make this work. You can see that's the starter hole, and there are the bolt holes for the starter bolts, which are important for positioning the starter because, well, look, there's no block behind it or anything. The bolts are positioned by the starter plate. So if the alignment is not correct here, obviously the starter is not going to engage. And you can see that the other holes are lined up. There's a dowel pin down there that holds it, etc. But obviously they modified the crap out of this, and they rounded out the holes on the transmission itself, and they mangled the threads on the starter, I found out too. So all this combined meant that the starter would just go out of position and not start the car. So now that I have actually gotten the correct OEM part, it should actually go together properly. So this is just a classic case of bad redneck engineering, and or some guy being like, well, somebody on the forum said they just modified their automatic starter plate and it worked. And it's like, well, yeah, you know what, it does work, and probably I could have just moved the starter down, tightened the bolt again, and then it would have ran for a little while until the starter kicked out of place again, because that's what the last owner told me kept happening. And that's also probably why the threads on the starter got screwed up, because when I put in the outer bolt on the starter, it went in really easy, and torquing it down was kind of weird, and I looked and the threads are kind of partially stripped, because that starter was kicking itself out of place when you would try to start the car. Duh! So anyway, new bolts, new starter plate, and hopefully it's all going to work. If I have to, I will replace the starter as well, but I'm just going to use some Loctite and hope that that helps keep everything in place. So pretty soon, right after Wicked Big Meet, I can start working on this thing again, and I know a lot of you are looking forward to that.
It's gonna be okay, baby. One day you'll be back on the open road, and we're just gonna pray that your control arm doesn't go right through this strut tower.
Oh, didn't know you were watching that tender moment here. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'm hoping that I can work on this car more soon, although I do have to focus a bit on my WRX until Wicked Big Meet on the 24th. Please consider subscribing if you haven't yet. If you're already subscribed, please turn on notifications because I am still doing daily videos. Please like the video or dislike it if you thought it was crap, because any kind of feedback is helpful for me, and please leave a comment. You know I will get back to you as always. Thank you so much for watching 802 Garage. Bye, everybody.
Scotty Kilmer here. Is that 802 Garage loser finally gone? I'll tell you what, you can tell he's an idiot because he owns a turbo car. Nobody smart would ever own a car with a turbo. You definitely shouldn't go watch his parody video because it's pretty stupid, and if you ask me, it's actually just mean. I mean, who has the time of day to make YouTube videos all about some silly topic? And who would ever attack another YouTuber? I would never do that. That's pretty lowbrow. So you can take it from me, Scotty Kilmer, that my channel has plenty of class. So remember to go watch and ring that bell.